Currently in Dublin, a national protest against government policy is underway as the island migration row continues to rumble on. And the numbers are continuing to build up, and it comes amid the ongoing row with the British government over asylum seekers crossing the border to allegedly avoid deportation to Rwanda under Rishi Sunak's deterrent scheme. Well, I'm joined now by GBNews' Northern Ireland reporter Dougie Beattie, who joins us live from the streets of Dublin. Dougie, the last time we spoke, you talked of over 10,000 ordinary working-class local Dubliners who've turned up, a heavy police presence. What's the latest, and why are they there, Dougie?
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Dublin. It is one of the most beautiful cities in Ireland, and it is overflowing, according to the population here. They're saying no more immigration, we can't take any more, and this has been going on for years and years, but over the last 2 years I've been very much covering it, and I have seen the council houses, the waiting lists. They are getting more and more for everyday local Dublin people, and indeed Irish people right across. In fact, last week we were in a beautiful place called Wicklow at a small town there, and of course migrants have now been put into there as well. This is the people here behind are really saying, look, Ireland is Irish, and our culture and social status is being eroded because of the mass migration or immigration into Ireland. And they have come out in their thousands today to protest about it. And then, of course, earlier on we spoke to Herman Kelly, who's the head of the Irish Freedom Party, and I asked him the question, would it be wise for Simon Harris, the Taoiseach, the Irish Prime Minister, to have accepted Rishi's offer of joining the Rwanda scheme? And he said most definitely it was. But of course the problem is the people here very much see as if in the last 100 years they've got rid of British rule only to take on European rule and European laws. And of course that is affecting their housing, their hotels, their hospitals, everything down the line. And today, in fact, two of my guests who are meant to be with me now are actually on that platform behind me speaking, so obviously we can't get them at this moment. But it has been a very, very well-behaved crowd, and a crowd that is really set on telling the story of exactly what is happening in Ireland and looking to the politicians to do more for them to protect their culture.
And Dougie, we saw last week astonishing scenes of that tented city in Dublin being evacuated, but they were taken down the road to a luxury hotel, the kind of hotel most ordinary working islanders couldn't afford to even stay at. And we've also seen, Dougie, typified by this, a narrative from the political class, from the police, from the mainstream media, branding anybody who objects to what's going on as far right, as racist and extreme. And the Irish public, Dougie, they're telling you today they've had enough.
Well, they are, and mainstream media. I'm the only member of the media in amongst this crowd here because, well, the rest don't seem to be welcome to come in here because the Irish people are saying they're not telling the truth of what is happening. And when you talk about the City West Hotel down the road, I mean, I stayed there once. And I mean, it has a golf course, not that I play golf, but it has a beautiful spa, it has sports courts, everything, and a full-scale restaurant. And yes, the people here that are here marching today, and really the people that are marching here today are everyday people. They would love to afford to stay there. They'd love to afford to live in Wicklow. But the optics of this, no matter how this goes, is not good for an Irish government when the people are saying, sorry, we want all those things and we can't have them, and unfortunately you're giving them to people that are just arriving. And I don't really believe that the Irish people here, from what I've heard here today, care about the Rwanda bill. They don't believe that it is Rwanda bill that's happened. They believe that this has gone on for much, much longer than that, and the Rwanda bill pretty much, they are telling me, is the political classes here playing to an audience to try and excuse themselves on the way up to an election.
And Dougie, some of the numbers are simply eye-watering. Asylum applications to Ireland in 2019 were less than 5,000. This year, they're expected to be well in excess of 20,000, a quadrupling in 5 years. And against all of that, a political backdrop of saying open borders is great. No, we welcome this willingly. And Dougie, you're right to say we have those huge elections due in June. Do you think there's a mood on the streets that there's going to be a backlash against the current political system and a real appetite for change?
Well, from being here today, and I mean, you can hear that behind me, and one of the first things that they said from the lectern above was, make sure that you're registered to vote. So I firmly believe that there is this political movement at this minute in time has seen people from all sides of the community. And don't forget, there's not a right wing in Ireland. A right wing doesn't exist. It's the most liberal country in the world, and these are ordinary people saying, we want our vote to count and don't ignore us on what you're saying. But last week the Rwanda thing really got out of control because Helen McAtee, the Justice Minister in the Dáil here, made a comment in the Oireachtas committees basically saying that she believed that nearly 80% or 70-something% of the immigrants here were coming in through Northern Ireland, and that was picked up by ourselves and others, that then started a political row. And we now have unionist parties in the north very much saying, hold on, most of the immigrants that's coming into Northern Ireland are coming from the south to north. So nobody seems to have those facts and figures to hand. But what the people do know here is that their infrastructure, their housing is under real pressure, and that is not, they don't really care where it comes from, but they want it to stop and have locals and their culture put first.
And Dougie, you mentioned the numbers, a small country relative of only around about 5 million, but you mentioned earlier 1 million of that, 20% of that. Now immigration as a proportion, Dougie, that's a massive change in a very short period of time.
Absolutely it is, Martin. And when you look at Ireland, north and south, I think there's about 5.7 million in the south and 1.8 million in the north. But when you put in 1 million people, and that's 1 million that are registered here, that's not including the illegals that have came in at the same time. And as I walked into this city today, besides for the massive security presence, it is obvious that people are sleeping in doorways, the tented villages that they have moved on, the aftermath of that and so forth. And there is people still trying to sleep here and come back to the city centre of Dublin, and possibly, because I can't say it for sure, many more arrivals within the last few weeks.
Now, Dougie, the mood behind you now sounds very celebratory, very good-natured, very together. When you were on in the previous hour, we did, however, see a substantial police presence coming in a line, looking like RoboCop, the way they were kitted out. They're known for being heavy-handed at these kind of protests. What's the police looking like on the ground at the moment, Dougie? And do we anticipate there to be any friction later on?
Well, there was a counter-protest outside the GPO, which is a bit ironic if you know your Irish history. And as this protest came by, that protest, it was lined by, as you described, RoboCop in place, ready to pounce for any trouble that would happen. But really, the protesters here, because they are actually everyday people, just kept on going and going on through to come down to Customs House Quay here, where they would hear the speakers. But they are. I can't describe it to you enough, Martin. I mean, this is like your next door neighbour appearing here. I mean, there was people in pushchairs. There was children, older people, all of them, and some of the people that I interviewed earlier on here are all very much. I mean, they could be your sister or brother. That's how really decent and straight these people are, and they've had enough. They really have had enough, Martin. Whether that goes into numbers in the next election, we will await and see, but definitely this is not the right wing.
Okay, superb stuff. Dougie Beattie in amongst it, getting the real take and not smearing people as far-right or extremists, but actually talking to them, actually engaging with them. Well done, Dougie Beattie, and of course we'll be back to you in the next hour. Please talk to as many people as possible and let's get their messages back to us. And a lot of people getting in touch with us at GBNews here today, absolutely inspired by the Irish spirit, flying their flag, saying enough is enough. And a lot of you people saying that if this happened in Britain, you think the police here would be clamping down.